we're going to press through. All right, we're moving on to item 10.0, which is citizens' participation. Lexington County School District One's Board of Trustees solicits the advice and counsel of its citizens. To encourage this participation, the board provides a citizens' participation period during board meetings. In order to speak, you must be the parent or legal guardian of a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school, a taxpayer residing in the Lexington District 1 attendance area, an employee of the district, or a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school. You may comment on agenda items, school operations, policies, and programs. You may not speak about or name specific individuals, whether students or school or district staff. Failure to follow this rule will result in immediate loss of the opportunity to speak. We want to remind you that this meeting is being live streamed and that the recording of this meeting will be part of the public record in perpetuity. We want to give everyone who came tonight an opportunity to speak, and in order to do that, I will call on each speaker by name and ask you to approach the lectern at the back of the room. The board will not reply to your remarks nor take any action during the board meeting in response to your comments or questions. You may address the board for up to 3 minutes. If you have any handouts you would like the board to review, please give them to Mrs. Halliday in the back of the room and she will distribute them. Please do not clap or make any comments, either while an individual speaks or after he or she finishes. As you came in tonight, you received a card to fill out to indicate you wanted to speak. That card asks for your name, address, and other information. However, we will read out only your name, the town you reside in, and the name of the schools your children attend when it is your turn to speak. If you're unable to attend this evening or uncomfortable addressing the board in person, you may reach out to the board by email, telephone, or mail, and our contact information is available on the Lexington District 1 website. We welcome all messages. All right.
Madam Chair, I'd like to interject here and bring to the board's attention that we have been in violation of board policy with citizens' participation, which our policy calls for an allotment of 15 minutes for this purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for pointing that out. We have about 10 speakers this evening. I think that will proceed this evening, but we will, I believe that we're going to start considering that policy.
I think we need to look at forming an ad hoc committee and just revamping the citizens' participation model.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. All right, first we have Ms. Jessica Garcia. Ms. Garcia is the parent of a student that attends Red Bank Elementary, and she lives in Lexington.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Jessica Garcia, and I'm the lead interventionist at Red Bank Elementary. In my profession, the worst 3 words a child could ever say is, "I can't read." However, I hear it quite often. I'm not only here as a reading recovery teacher, but as a parent of a child who benefited from reading recovery. First, I would like to tell you about the experience I went through with my child. Like any parent, I read to my child when she was little. She had a huge library of books to choose from, so I knew reading would just come easy to her. However, in August, when my child started kindergarten, my mom passed away, and my little girl developed separation anxiety. And many of you may know my mom. My mom was Bonnie Harmon. And so the first 5 weeks of kindergarten, she was spent crying, and her focus was not on learning. It was when mommy was going to come get her. She did great through the rest of the first semester, and she was loving school. And just when I thought she would make it to the end of kindergarten, COVID happened, and school shut down. When she ended first grade, she was reading level D thanks to a summer reading camp hosted by Red Bank Elementary. By the end of the second 9 weeks, she had not progressed where she should have been, and the teacher recommended her to be screened for reading recovery. She qualified for the program. In less than 20 weeks, my child was reading on grade level. She took off like a rocket. She made the accelerated progress that was intended by the program with the intense interventions provided. Now she is a typical second grade student, and she is reading and writing on pace and does not need additional support. Now I would like to tell you from a reading recovery teacher perspective how valuable the reading recovery program is to the development of our students. I had a first grade student whose parents had chosen for him to be a Lula student during the 2020-2021 school year. He had been screened due to the kindergarten ranking sheets from the previous year. After speaking with a parent, she was willing to bring the child to school before the school day began so he could receive his reading recovery lesson, and then take him to his daycare afterwards so he could do his virtual school day. This just goes to show she was fully committed to helping her child learn to read. We talk about family involvement in reading recovery, and it takes the reading recovery teacher, the classroom teacher, the student, and the parents to be involved in order for the child to have accelerated progress in such a short period of time. He was a very self-conscious child. He told me early on he couldn't read, but throughout the lessons he gained confidence and was able to grow. When he began, he couldn't read at a kindergarten level text. When he finished the program, he was reading within grade level expectations. He will not need continued support from the RTI model to ensure continued success because of the self-extending system he has acquired through reading recovery. I thank you for supporting reading recovery in Lexington One. Your support ensures the students like the ones I spoke about.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Thank you very much. Next, we have Ms. Debbie Myers, and she lives in Lexington, and she is a taxpayer.
Has the live stream been restored? It was out. Just a question. G.K. Chesterton said that America is the only nation founded upon a creed. That creed defined as having two components. We as a nation believe in God who created the universe and that our rights come from him. The government's primary duty is to protect those God-given rights. Freedom of speech, thought, religion, assembly, self-determination, bodily autonomy. These tenets have been under assault for decades. These protocols have had little to do with the virus and everything to do with exerting control, coercion, and chaos to produce compliance from those in your charge. We're painfully aware of how many people have died, thousands of them, at the hands of malfeasant government or health entities. The truth is readily found, and all of you know the truth by now, as we enter year 3 of this insanity. James 4:6, read it for yourselves. For those of you who claim the name of Christ, whether in this room or hopefully watching online, I offer these points. Philippians 1:21, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. Should people of faith be fomenting fear or sharing hope, continuing this ridiculous narrative that is perpetuating falsehood? This is neither loving nor kind, and it's unchristian on its face. I believe the creator of this universe, as our founders did. I'm doing and I'm saying what he has called me to do. Everyone has suffered because of the heavy-handed tactics of government entities. Will you put an end to this? Desist with continuation of unproven destructive mitigation measures? Apparently not. Or will you continue to toe the line? There are massive incentives, coercion, to continue. They've driven the policy decision of this board for more than 2 years. Will this district continue to do what's required to keep the money flowing? Or will common sense and truth prevail? Replace the ridiculous calls for face covering, healthy home quarantines. How are they monitoring your kids inside your house? Anybody want to know? Remember those lovely laptops you all have? Anyway, go outside, breathe fresh air, exercise respiratory passages unhindered. We demand that professionals, medical professionals, provide proper early treatment for those who are actually ill. The most vulnerable and sickest among us have paid for these horrible measures with their lives. Whoever causes, Mark 9:42 for you Christians out there, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe you to stumble, it would be better for him if, with a heavy millstone hung around his neck, he had been cast into the sea. That's God's words, not mine. There is no ultimate peace for the wicked, the stiff-necked, observant, obstinate evildoer. I am pleading with you, again, stop what you're doing. Repent, turn around. Bonhoeffer said, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Yeah, beep, 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 beep. Time to push
Thank you,
back.
Ms. Myers.
Thank you very much. Welcome
Next,
to
we
the
have Ms.
Gulag.
Danielle Bowers. Ms. Bowers lives in Lexington and has students that attend Lake Murray, Beechwood, and Lexington High.
Can I get something to wipe, something dry?
Declaration of Independence, it says, "We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." I've always loved this line. I feel their sacrifice deep in my soul. All 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence put their lives on the line to fight for freedom. They were considered traitors. They stood up to tyranny based on an ideal, the proposition that our rights do not come from man or government, but from God. I see all around me a movement towards freedom, ordinary citizens standing up and opening their mouths, inspiring others to be courageous as well, like we just saw tonight. You may be annoyed that we're not falling in line with what you as elected government officials and government employees are doing, but that's the whole purpose of the Declaration of Independence. There's a battle for our children's hearts and minds, and we need to stand up. We have a duty as citizens to understand our Constitution, to understand the principles in the Declaration of Independence, to know what made our country great and what is destroying it. In 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. said, "A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true." At some point, every single person, especially those of you, board members, Dr. Little, every administrator in this will be held accountable. Whether it is through the court system or whether it was with God, you will be held to answer for what was most important, holding up a law that made no sense at all, or standing up for what was right. Just a reminder that those who are afraid or nervous and really concerned about COVID, you can stay at home, you can quarantine, you can wear your mask. We're not gonna come to your house, we're not gonna rip it off your face, we're not gonna make you do anything that you don't want to do. We're not gonna make you come sit at a football game at Lexington High School. But if you go to one of those Lexington High School football games, you'll see really how the community feels about COVID. If you come to a basketball game, I know this because I sit with 3 kids playing sports in high school, basketball, lacrosse, football, baseball, I can see it. Nobody cares. There's a small handful of people, and guess what? I am more than happy that they want to sit there and do that. Evil wants us fighting, but I have no room for evil, and so do most of these parents. We're just standing up because we want everyone to have the same opportunity to choose. Unity is strength, division is weakness. You are dividing us. And the 14th Amendment gives us due process. It guarantees us equal protection under the law. So why in the world are unvaccinated being treated differently than the vaccinated? It's the new segregation and the new discrimination, and we have to stop it.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Please, no applause. Thank you very much. Next, we have Ms. Sue Carter, and she is a teacher, and she's going to speak about reading recovery.
Hi, I'm a reading interventionist in Lexington One, and this is my 7th year teaching reading recovery. In my journey to support my struggling readers, I often researched best practices in curriculum and intervention. Time and again, reading recovery always showed the best student gains. When our district offered to train the first class, I was on board. Our teacher leader told us that when we finished training, we could teach any child to read. That was not an exaggeration. The training was rigorous, and still the daily instruction is rigorous. It is the hardest thing I do all day long. We teach the lowest children in 1st grade. Through further research, I found that the most influential factor in student achievement is teacher efficacy, a teacher's belief that they can positively influence student outcomes no matter what, including those who are disengaged or disadvantaged. Because reading recovery has equipped me, I truly believe all my students will read regardless of their background, levels of support, or disability. We teach children with speech issues, hearing issues. We teach children who get much support at home and children who get none. We believe, every one of them will read. To prepare for tonight, I looked back at a list of all my reading recovery students, and each one brought a face to my mind. The first days of lessons when I saw tears and heard, "Mrs. Carter, I don't know how to read anything. I have dyslexia. I can't read. I want to read like everybody else. Are you going to show me how?" And also little angry voices saying, "I can't. I'll never read. I don't know anything. I'm not smart." At the middle and end of lessons, I see those same faces when I ask, Who read that? Who figured that out? I get that beautiful toothless smile with an excited, I did it. Every one of those students progressed, and the majority of those left first grade reading on grade level. Many of them were never again in an RTI group or special education. Most of them were never in an RTI group after second grade. Reading recovery truly changes the course of young lives. If they can leave first grade reading on grade level, that greatly enhances the promise of a successful academic career. Reading recovery has taught me so much more than I could ever begin to express in this amount of time, but it has literally changed everything I do in my classroom, even for my second and third grade RTI students. Working with a trained teacher allows our students to grow not only in book levels, but more importantly, they learn strategic reading behaviors that will allow them to propel themselves forward in reading for years to come. I would like to thank Lexington District One for investing in me so I can invest in our children and change the trajectory of their future.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter. Next, we have Ms. Stephanie Burquist, and she is a taxpayer.
Sometimes I think that y'all think that we have nothing better to do, but I assure you we have a lot of better things to do. But this is the most important fight that we will ever fight in any of our lifetimes. 2 weeks went to 3 years real quick, and 3 years is going to communism even quicker. Unfortunately, we're here. Next year is coming very quickly. Registration is here, and we have big decisions as parents to make. Our tears, our anger, our words are not being heard. We've had enough. I've been saying it for 2 years. Enough is enough. So here I stand before you today with the only option we have left. Per bond and insurance law, please note this letter of intent will serve you as your official written notice of my intent to file a claim against the above mentioned insurance policy if the demands in this letter are not met in the timeline below. This claim will be filed on the following basis: state and federal statutes that have been ignored, denied, and or not followed by the Lexington One School District, aka the member, which constitutes a wrongful act per the above noted policy as any actual, alleged error, omission, act, misstatement, neglect, or breach of duty. Thus, per noted in the policy above is a claim which constitutes a written notice or a suit for money or damages of said wrongful act. We demand the following. I demand the following now. Greg Little, step down from your position immediately. You have 48 hours to comply with every demand in this letter. Number 2, all illegal activities, including but not limited to the unlawful quarantine of healthy students, contact tracing, required medical testing of healthy students, and or discrimination against unvaccinated students in Lexington One must stop within 48 hours. Number 3, any and all vaccine clinics at any schools stop and shut down, in addition to the immediate estoppel of any encouragement of any vaccine within the public school system. Number 4, you renegotiate all of your terms under the most recent ESSER funds taken, and moving forward, any line item funds that you agree to must be voted on by the parents in this district, as the parents will now be the primary stakeholders. Number 5, you will remove any and all books within Lexington One full of pedophilia, sex, pornographic, or other sexually explicit material for minors. Per the guidelines stated here and per this policy, I see that some of you are very uninterested. I am requesting the full payout of US $1 million. I am required to say a monetary amount by law. That's why I'm saying this in the general liability coverage in the policy noted here that I will serve you with tonight. Under this policy, under the Lexington One School Board Insurance Policy Trust Number LX1-070121 for the non-compliance with state and federal laws that have caused learning harm, psychological harm, emotional harm, and distress to our children in the public school system, in addition to wages lost, an unprecedented amount of time spent here emailing, calling, meeting with, and standing for my children's and our children's constitutional values, and for the years of learning lost and access to public education denied, of which these years cannot be redeemed. I will be giving you all a copy.
Thank you, Ms. Burquist. Amen. Please reflect. Pause. Thank you. No, ma'am, please give it to Ms. Halliday. Next, we have Ms. Katherine Oates. Ms. Oates lives in Lexington and has students at Pleasant Hill Elementary, Middle, and Lexington High School.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. It's tough act to follow, but I am coming with a lot of hats. I'm a parent of 4 children. They range from 3rd grade to 9th grade. They're mostly, well, my oldest is very high achieving, and then but they all work really hard. And outside of the quarantine stuff, which didn't even really plan on talking about, I'm wondering when we're going to get grades back in school. My children they don't know how they're doing. My 3rd grader has never had a grade, and and my 4th grader has only had 1 year of grades, and he's about to be in middle school where things start counting. So I would be really interested to know when that really important part of learning is returned. My oldest child came home very upset earlier this week because he is in an AP class and he has worked really hard on his GPA. He has studied for hours and hours and hours, and he got an excellent grade on his test. After that, his teacher informed the class that they would all be allowed to take retakes and get 100s. And my son spent, 10 hours studying for this test. So those are policies that aren't related necessarily to the COVID and the quarantine, but they're real problems in our educational system. And I'm very tired. I want to stand up for my children. I also do have a major problem with the privacy issues that are under fire with these policies. I don't want to be reporting my child's medical records to schools or the government. I actually have a PhD in political science from the University of Florida, and pretty much every time the government steps in, they ruin stuff. And I don't want them ruining my children. So I think it's my right as a parent to decide what happens to them, what choices are made for their medical bodies. And I just feel really passionate about that. And I feel like we could be more creative and help the people that are at high risk for this without punishing all the other children. There are studies coming out already saying how much harm has been done to the kids in their terms of developmental delays. So it's not just speculation anymore. There is hard evidence that we have mental health issues from these kids. People that are already disadvantaged, that don't have somebody at home, like I'm working from home, I'm an entrepreneur, and I can help my kids. But other people don't have that. So it's making the gap even further apart for those kids that don't have that support. So my kids have had so many quarantines, I've lost track. But my oldest is actually, my older 2 are vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And right after my oldest son was, I was within 3 months of his 2nd shot, he was quarantined and told that he had to wear a mask during his varsity cross-country practices. He is asthmatic. He has had an asthma attack during a race that he's had to be hospitalized for. So I just think that the harm is unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oates. Next, we have Ms. Michelle Fagan. Ms. Fagan is a taxpayer.
Oh, I would have children in the school, but not these schools. This is wet, please. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Hi, I'm Michelle Fagan. I'm the secretary and Lexington leader for Moms for Liberty, the Lexington chapter. Oh, Testis Day. See, here's the thing. I believe it was on June 7th of last year, McMaster said that we no longer had a state of emergency. So therefore, we're going by DHEC's policies, their recommendations. I say give the ESSER 3 funds back. Give them back, because we're using tests that are not valid. They've been proven. Now we're discriminating and say, oh, if you've had these experimental jabs, and that's what they are because it's not approved, it's still under emergency authorization use. Now you're saying, oh, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine. You get to go to school. That is wrong. I have a total of 3 grandchildren that would be in this district, but we don't trust you all. There's no transparency. You have your little meetings and go hide and chit-chat with each other. This is all a farce. The last thing I have to say, you will be held accountable for crimes against humanity because it will be proven, and you all tried to indoctrinate the kids with shots, experimental vaccines that are causing irreparable harm and death to people, especially our children. So you will be held accountable Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fagan. Next, we have Marie Yantz. And she lives in Gilbert and wants to speak about YouTube access on iPads.
Yes, my concern tonight is the access to YouTube. You know, my grandson, I'm guardian, and we were sick with COVID, and he was on his iPad more than normal. And I started noticing a change in his behavior. He was acting out sexually towards his brother. So we had a conversation about it. Well, what he tells me is that even though he can't get on TikTok, that through the YouTube, somebody else who was watching TikTok, he was able to watch an inappropriate video. And, you know, my question is, can y'all just use the YouTube? You know, I understand it's apparently a tool in the classrooms. I know when, you know, school was closed down, there was some activities that he did was through YouTube. But, you know, I don't want it in my home. Right now, how we're handling it is his iPad is for school only. When he's at home, it stays in his book bag because I can't continually monitor him. And, you know, I just, with all of the awesome, talented teachers we have, it seems to me that anything that they're showing on YouTube, that maybe, you know, within the district, our teachers could make a video of the same kind of thing and teach them that way. You know, I personally would like to see the YouTube gone. I don't know why it's, you know, whether it has to be on there, but if it could at least be unaccessible after school, I would appreciate it. I'm asking y'all to look into that.
Thank you, Ms. Yantz. Next, we have Ms. Lee Soo Kim, and she has a student at River Bluff High School.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I guess it's very hard tonight and to attend a meeting after a Super Bowl Sunday and yesterday a Valentine's Day. And I prepare to come to speak again to urge you to stop quarantine, but obviously the policy will be changed pretty soon. But still, I will make my point across. Since last month, I was here making the request to the board to stop quarantining healthy children. We have received 2 quarantine letters. My son has made it to the DECA state competition that takes place at the end of this month. Very often, after the quarantine, the last quarantine, in the car, and he will all the time say, "Mom, and if I can make it through this week without being quarantined, and the next week, we only have 3 more days. If I can make it through the 3 days, I can go to the competition." Isn't that sad? It almost made me cry. He tried very hard and to make it into for the competition. And it is the anxiety of being afraid of being quarantined overpowered the excitement about the competition itself. He loves school, but whether he can be attending school or not attending school should not be even his concern. It is his right to be educated, to go to school every day, as long as he is healthy. But yet it has become a worry for him every day, and also a bothersome for our whole family. On February 4th, 2022, I sent the board the link to the original study report entitled Literature Review and Meta-Analysis of the Effects of Lockdowns on COVID-10, Mortality, on COVID-19 mortality conducted by Johns Hopkins Institute for Applied Economics, Global Health, and the Study of Business Enterprise, published in January 2022. I'm not sure if you read it or not. The report states, while this meta-analysis concludes that lockdowns have had little to no public health effects, they have imposed enormous economic and social costs where they have been adopted. In consequence, lockdown policies are ill-funded and should be rejected as a pandemic policy instrument. This is a study from the Johns Hopkins Institute. Quarantining or isolating healthy students is just like lockdown to them. So the district does not have the data of how many quarantined healthy students end up being tested positive. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kim. Next, we have Ms. Laura Brooks, and she has a student at Pleasant Hill Elementary, and she wants to talk about reading recovery. She left? Okay. All right. Next, we have Murray Kynard, and he is a taxpayer.
Madam Chairwoman, ladies and gentlemen of this board, thank you all. I came last month and thanked you. I'm thanking you again. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the time you give, time away from your families. I think last month I heard the meeting went a little over 4 hours. Thank you all. Dr. Little, your staff, thank you. Thank you for your service. And I want to mention, and all the people in the 2 months that I've been here and spoke, I was remiss last month, and I'm not going to make the same mistake this month. Thank you to your staff and you, Dr. Little, for looking out for those in our schools that are least protected. Shame on all of us for not recognizing the hard work that we heard about today with the Reading Recovery Program. Everybody here should be celebrating that program. Thank you last month. Dr. Little, thank you, your staff. Thank you for hiring leaders like the principal at Lake Murray Elementary School who won a national award. 17 adults spoke at the meeting last month. Not a single one of us congratulated her for that accomplishment, her staff. The most important thing that happened in the last 2 meetings is recognizing those special individuals, those children, those teachers. And I want to publicly say thank you to them. Thank you, Dr. Little. We talk about looking out for the least. We know about not taking cupcakes to class. Why? It's not because of 25 kids that don't have allergies. It's because of the 1 or 2 that do. So thank you, board, Dr. Little, your staff, for looking out for them. I've heard words thrown around. We're at war. War. So tonight I want to especially thank the history teachers in our school. Thank you for teaching us what war is and what, more importantly, what war is not. Thank you for teaching us what the casualties of war look like. Michael Smoke, graduate of Lexington High School, about 2015, I believe, was in the group at Kabul, Afghanistan at the airport that got attacked by the suicide bombers, watched his brothers in arms die. We want to talk about war? That's war, folks. We are in the greatest school district in this state, period. I begged you last month to find me one better. Finally, tonight, I want to thank the teachers and the staffs in each of the individual schools. Why? Thank you for teaching us, our children, what grown-ups look like. When we parents, quite frankly, act like children. Children. We get on the internet and we post stuff. We post stuff that somebody posted about our child. We would scream about somebody bullying our child. How dare they do that? But somehow at 18, 19, 25, it's okay to do it. Folks, it's not. It's not okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiner.